What's up, everybody? I got Chris Cozzolino here, founder and CEO at Uptown Creation, and we've been working with Chris over the last year and a half on scaling his agency. And Chris, thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with me here today and chat.
Yeah, of course. I'm always excited to do these.
For everyone listening, would you mind just giving 2 cents on, what your business is, what you guys do, who you serve?
Yeah, so we are an agency that helps B2B SaaS and service companies turn LinkedIn into a top revenue channel. And so we talk about how that's evolved over the course of working together and how our ICP has changed. But we primarily work with B2B companies that are SaaS and service based. And the general titles are going to be like founder level, chief revenue officer, VP of sales. Most of the time, those people are coming to us to bring in leads. So you can consider it a lead generation agency, but that positioning around revenue has been really important, something that we've worked on over the time of working with Hydra.
Sick. And for the people listening, like, where were you guys roughly in revenue when we started working together? And then where are you at today?
Yeah, when we started working together, we were just under 35,000 in monthly recurring revenue. And now we are just over 96,000 in recurring revenue.
Huge. So we've almost 3x the business
Yeah.
in the time working together, which has been like year and a half roughly, give or take. So obviously tremendous growth. It's super cool to see. What do you think were some of the main things that really led to that kind of growth? Like, what were the biggest unlocks for you? And maybe a better place to start would be when we started working together, what made you think like, all right, now's the time to actually seek out some sort of guidance to get to the next level?
Yeah, I think so. When we started working together, we were coming off of like the largest churn that we had ever had. We were coming out of COVID era and had a lot of coaches and consultants and solopreneurs that we were working with that had an influx of cash. We were charging lower prices, and those clients were churning at a pretty high rate, and we didn't even realize that that was the problem, but we saw our revenue was going down, and we didn't really have the solution to that. So when we started working together with you guys, that was kind of what we were coming in on, was a really high churn problem that we didn't even really know that that was the problem of. We just knew that we needed to change something.
Yeah, no doubt. And now that you guys are over seven figures, if you could go back to your, $35,000 a month business and talk to yourself, what would be some of the things that you would kind of tell them?
Yeah, and I think it's probably the changes that working with Hydra has taught us. And so I think
Sure.
the number one thing would be changing like our ideal customer profile to be working more with businesses that already have some level of success compared to like individuals where they're paying for things out of pocket and they're just trying to get off of the ground. So that alone was a big change that we made to our ideal customer profile that then allowed us to increase our price point as well. And if I'm looking at like two really impactful changes that we made, those are probably the most impactful ones that have kind of led to everything else.
Yeah. And how would you say those two things are interlinked, like choice of client and price?
Yeah, so especially when like lead generation is the end thing that people are looking for and they're looking for more meetings booked to their calendar, making sure that the clientele has something that other people want to buy was a
Yeah.
big part of it. And so we were selling like coaching services before for executive coaches. And I mean, it's the dumbest thing in the world looking back at that like that was the clientele we were servicing, because a lot of those coaches, like to be a top 1% coach, you need to be different. And we
Yeah.
definitely weren't working with those people. So making it so we were able to work with companies that have an established clientele already was really important. And then for obvious reasons, there being able to raise prices to go along with that was a lot easier to do because it wasn't people paying out of pocket. It wasn't people that are still trying to figure it out. It was companies that needed to accelerate their growth rather than like figure it out from scratch.
Yeah. No, it totally makes sense. And in terms of price point, like where were you guys charging a month before? And then what do your packages look like now on
Yeah,
average?
we were at just under 1,000, so 997 a month was the main package we were selling before, and now our average contract value on a monthly basis is just over 3,000, with the package that we sell the most being 2497. So from $1,000 to $2,500.
Yeah, I mean that's huge. That's huge. And I mean, arguably with less stress and headaches than the prior ICP.
100%.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Now, one of the things that I see in agency a lot is that people don't actually do the thing that they sell to get clients for themselves. And I think you're a really unique case where your pipeline is like it's built on what you actually deliver to clients. Do you want to talk a little bit about your strategy and how you guys actually get clients in the door?
Yeah, and so that's a good point that like the thing that we sell is the same way that we bring in majority of our business for better or for worse, and we've changed that a little bit to add on some of the other channels
Sure.
that agencies typically use. But having kind of an agency focused on using LinkedIn to generate more revenue, a big part of the way that we gain clients is through direct outreach on LinkedIn. I think that's something that Hydra helped us with. That again, in hindsight, is the dumbest thing in the world that we weren't doing already was posting LinkedIn content. So Hydra was a huge part of. We already had this audience on LinkedIn, but we weren't posting any content whatsoever. We were just doing direct messages, and that was working all right. But posting content has been a giant unlock for us as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And like roughly how many meetings a month are you seeing for your guys self like internally just from those lead gen channels?
Yeah, so we're steady between 50 to 60 meetings being scheduled a month. And historically, our show rate's pretty high. So being above 75%. Um, so that's been good for us.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes sense. And I mean, obviously going from 35K a month to north of 90K a month, obviously the fulfillment or like the ops side has to change a bit as well to support that growth. What are some of the main things that you see change from 35K to now, and whether team structure or process?
Yeah, so it's a big process change. So before we were trying to run everything out of HubSpot and it wasn't really effective because we weren't able to make tasks and all that stuff. Um, Hydra pushed us to use ClickUp, and that's been one of the best decisions. So all of our fulfillment works out of ClickUp, and that's kind of their hub for everything. So we have a client dashboard set up. I'm able to go in there at a glance, see every single client that we have, the stage that they're in, and then our fulfillment team is able to kind of leave comments, notes, put the status of a client. And before we didn't have any of that. We were just kind of doing the work
Fast and
and
loose.
yeah, and I don't want to say guessing because we knew what was happening, but
For sure.
it was all gut feeling, and it wasn't like you actually are able to see everything that's happening and make it so you can hire and scale other people on the team.
Yeah. And one of the other things I know that we've touched on is measurement and like quantifying client success and quantifying if we're winning for people and how much and how that kind of ties into lifetime value and all of that. What are some of the like maybe two, three things that you would say to someone who's a little bit earlier on, maybe in that journey that they should make sure they fix so that they can scale?
Yeah, and I would say that we have always been like a fulfillment first agency, meaning that like that was the way that we grow. I have two other business partners. One of my business partners has always kind of handled the sales side, and I was always handling the fulfillment side. Um, so having that was always a helpful piece to everything.
Hmm.
I think the biggest advice that I would give that we weren't doing was the perceived value that a client has of your agency and what you're actually providing to them might not always align, and making sure that you could be providing the best service in the world, but if you're not demonstrating that or showing that to the client on review calls or whatever your communication channel is, it doesn't really matter. So that was something that Hydra helped us with a ton, was even though we were fulfilling and we were meeting our metrics internally of what we would consider successful campaigns, we were struggling with certain clients still churning because we just weren't communicating that value and setting expectations with the clients. And we would have somebody whose campaign from our perspective was crushing it and they were on pace to do really, really well, but it was still ramping up a little bit. And we just didn't do a good job of communicating that until we put in the frameworks that you guys recommended.
Yeah. So, I mean, like clients, even if you're objectively winning, like clients don't know until you make it a focal point to like let them know.
Yeah. And having a feedback loop of like NPS scores to be able to get that information directly from clients so we were able to correct problems earlier was also a huge help.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. If you were to kind of restart the agency, what would you do different, if anything? Like, would you build the same type of agency? Would you build it in a different way? Like, what would that look like for you?
Yeah, I think being able to stay as lean as possible was something that we had to learn the hard way. So we overhired multiple times thinking that like hiring was the solution. Like if we needed sales, oh, we need to go hire more people to do sales without even having a sales process. And that's something that we can touch on, because I don't know if you even know that when we came into Hydra, like our sales process was almost non-existent. We just had calls and we told people what we did, and then they either paid us money or they didn't. Now I would say that our sales process is one of the strongest points of the agency. So that's another thing, like starting from scratch, making sure that you have a defined sales process, that whether it's a 1-call close or a 2-call close, you follow that same process every time and are able to just do sales things.
Yeah, makes sense. So not really just, flying by the seat of your pants, like actually having something concrete where it's like lead comes in, this happens, and it's consistent every time. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, huge. Back to the question though, would you build the same agency again?
That's a good question. Probably, because it was coming from an expertise base. I think that there's a lot of like being in the agency space now, there's a lot of interest in other agencies. So I think like AI powered content agencies are super interesting. And then the local lead gen agencies are super, super interesting as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, those are always fascinating. The scale that they just like go in such a short period of time is pretty wild sometimes. So I feel you on that. It's an itch to scratch.
Yeah.
What's next for Uptown? Like obviously tripled the business almost, relatively short amount of time. Like where are you and your partners hoping to kind of take things next, and what's your view on what's going to be required to get there?
Yeah. I mean, our goal is to get to 10 million a year in reoccurring revenue. And the way that we've gotten to just under 100K a month is been primarily through like booking meetings and that lead generation aspect. And that's why I started off the conversation talking more about LinkedIn as a revenue and growth generating channel than just like meeting booking and lead generation. So direct outreach has been the primary reason why people work with our agency. Adding content to the pieces of the puzzle is kind of what's next and what we're building out. And we think that that'll take us to from just under 100 to 250 to 300 if we execute right. And then paid ads being kind of the third thing that we can add on to that. So using LinkedIn for direct outreach, for content, for paid, and being able to do all of those things for companies, but also be able to do the individual pieces and let that serve as an entry point for customers So I think that the client ascension aspect of things and how we move clients into larger packages and are able to build off of the wins that we're already having is kind of what's going to be the next unlock for us.
Yeah. Yeah. Really building that lifetime value, compounding it month over month. Yeah, no, that's exciting. Now, for those of you who stuck around to the end, Chris, give a little bit of sauce on what they should be doing to land clients on LinkedIn for themselves. Like if you only had 20 minutes a day
Yeah.
and you had LinkedIn, like what are you doing to get clients?
So there's going to be three things to it. It's going to be growing your audience. And so sending 200 blank connection requests each and every week to people who have posted on LinkedIn in the last 30 days is probably the biggest unlock that I still recommend to everybody. Like nobody does that. So if you just execute on that piece, you will be so far ahead of everybody else and it'll increase your response rates across the board. So then that leads to messaging, sending messages to every new connection that you make with the goal of kind of pitching them almost and pitch slapping them, which a lot of people might say not to do. But if you are targeting the right people, you should be able to say to them the words that matter the most. And then last, but definitely not least, posting content on a daily basis. So then all those new people that you're connecting with are able to kind of meet you before they get a chance to meet you. But if you do those three things and you do that consistently, LinkedIn will be a great growth channel for you.
I love it. I love it. Any last words you want to share before we wrap here?
No, I think that anybody that's considering working with Hydra should absolutely do it. And I think that a side effect that by having business partners that's been helpful through the process is having like a third party that I don't want to say like is able to mediate things, but is able to like give clarity and like take opinions out of things and call us on when somebody might be like being strong-headed on something and what the actual like right decision is to make. That's been a really helpful aspect of working together.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Well, I appreciate you saying that, and obviously, I'm excited for the next phase of growth together, and also congrats on everything you guys have achieved so far. It's been really cool to see. So,
Yeah.
yeah, appreciate the time. For those of you watching, if you're interested in hearing our take on how we might be able to help you scale your business, go ahead, hit the link down in the description. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.